your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, lot to get to today. We are going to start, though, with the spring football game that just occurred on Saturday, and there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to get to. Might even talk a little bit of basketball, but that might be reserved for tomorrow. We'll see how far we get. So, all right. We've been talking all week about Arizona football and about how this is basically a different era. And, again, I get it. Arizona won one game last year, won one of their last 20. But if you were at the game, you could just tell there's a little bit of a different feel, and the talent across the board looks better. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that this is the greatest team that Arizona's ever fielded, because it's not. But let's just start position by position. Quarterback, Jalen Harris comes in. And he certainly looks like a guy that will be the opening game starter, and it's impossible not to have him as the opening game starter, being that he is the ex-Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, and he's got a lot of nice little tools. Now, he threw a couple really bad passes to start out the game, stared down his receiver, one got picked, brought back, but the next time down, he got the ball inside his own 10, and he maneuvered around and made a big 40-yard out. And then he was able to scramble around a little bit, hit a couple crossing patterns, hit a couple slants, and you could kind of see where that offense would be. Jordan McLeod was Jordan McLeod. You know, everybody who saw him last year saw that this is a quarterback that could move the ball. He's also incredibly turnover prone, and that's it's going to be an issue for him, and that was very much what he did. He took his team right down for a touchdown. Good work. Looked like he was on the verge of scoring another touchdown and a pick six. So, that's kind of what you're looking at here right now if you're an Arizona football fan. But the guy that everybody's talking about right now is Noah Fafeta, and with good reason. Fafeta was absolutely fantastic yesterday. Now, again, a lot of it's going against the second-team defense, and, you can say what you want there. But he came in there, and he took the team right down the field multiple times and got the ball in the end zone. And kind of like we talked about before, he's a player that kind of, he just kind of gets it in a way that a lot of quarterbacks don't. He looks like he was inherently born to be a Pac-12 quarterback or a college quarterback. Now, again, you could say, well, if he was really born to do that, why is he 5'8"? Again, man, sometimes people just break the mold, and I think that's what Noah Fafeta has a possibility of doing that. Jedd Fisch was asked after the game what his plans are for Noah and who the starting quarterback's going to be, and he wouldn't name it. I'll tell you, it's going to be Jalen Harris, barring something unforeseen. But he also said that Noah crosses off of three of the boxes that they certainly look for when they're looking for a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But you do get the feeling watching him that one way, shape, or form, he is going to hit the field next year. And when he hits the field, it's probably not going to surprise some people that he's pretty successful. Now, the other guys out there that he'll be throwing to look the part, as we've talked about. Kian Burnett is a tight end, Chester Burnett's son, ex-U of A great. He's going to be an absolute problem at tight end. Maybe not this year, but sometime in the future, because, again, it's difficult because the tight end position, there's such physicality that goes with it that it makes it a little bit different for sure. But he certainly is going to be a player that I think is going to cause some real problems for people. And you could see that he caught the first pass of the game, a little crossing pass, and then he hit was a touchdown pass from Jordan McLeod, first touchdown of the game. And you could look at him and he's 6'4", he's 240 pounds, and you could extrapolate out what he's going to look like in a year or two. And, the other receivers, it's hard to really say, but they look just so much different than what we're accustomed to. In the past, you're used to your best receivers being Samaje Grant and Nate Phillips, guys like that who, on their own are good receivers, but when you have an entire cupboard full of 5'8" wide receivers, it's not going to scare a lot of defenses, no matter how good they are. This team is different right now. You've got Kian Burnett, who we talked about, 6'5". AJ Jones, 6'5", had a nice catch there. DeTora McMillan, 6'5". We talked about him. He didn't do anything to bring any concern to the big expectations that he's going to have this year. And even your smaller guys, are Dorian Singer, 6 foot. So you're looking at that position right there and the quarterback and the wide receiver position, and there's a significant talent upgrade to where there was at this point last year. I wouldn't worry too much about the offensive line. A lot of people were concerned about the pass rush. We'll get to that in just a minute, but there was a lot of injuries along the offensive line, and so it's hard to really look at that unit and say that they didn't perform up. Now, one thing that does always perform up is Built Bar. We've talked about it. Guy on Twitter put out there, he said he took the dive into Built Bar, and it was absolutely worth it. You can go to GNC and get it. Look at the players on this team. It wouldn't surprise me if this new look Arizona squad is absolutely consuming Built Bar because, honestly, they look different. They look physically more capable, and that's where Built Bar comes in. On top of that, Built Bar tastes good. All right, let's get to the defensive side of the ball right now. The biggest problem that you could maybe make the case for Arizona over the last 3-4 years is twofold, and they're probably the two biggest problems that you could have on a defense. You don't force turnovers, and, oh, by the way, you're not getting to the quarterback, and your defensive backs are struggling. Everything kind of goes hand in hand right there. Now, defensive line has done some things. The defensive line / pass rush has done some things throughout camp. In that, first and foremost, Hunter Echols, USC transfer, is going to be an issue. Again, generally you're a little bit concerned about pass rushers that don't make their mark at a previous school. USC's a little bit of a different animal, obviously, because of the talent they bring. But Echols has been everywhere in camp, and he's been a guy that has, quite frankly, he's been the best pass rusher on this team through camp. He got a sack. He was around the quarterback. Obviously, you can't hit the quarterback, but he was definitely in the picture, and he did, obviously nothing to disprove any of the hype around him. Now, Jalen Harris is a guy, great athlete, great kid, great physical build that I think people have been looking at for a long time and really hoping that he can make that next step. He had a very nice spring game. He had a solid spring camp. You just hope that, being that this is going to be his 6th year, that he can transition that into another strong into a strong season right here, because from Don Brown to Marcel Yates to, I think, Johnny Nansen, even though he hasn't commented on it, everybody sees the talent this young man has. And, you're not putting out all conference expectations or 8 or 9 or 10 sacks if a guy doesn't have that capability of doing that. And I think Jalen Harris certainly does do that. He looked good out there. It's going to be fun to see how much, what he can do going forward, because there's certainly a lot of talent right there. His younger brother, Jason, who's also about 6'10", just kidding, about 6'8". He's put on some good weight. He's going to be another guy that I think the coaching staff would like to really see kind of emerge, maybe not into that all-conference guy, although I'm sure they'd love that. I think they'd like him to become kind of that, a guy that becomes a solid part of the rotation. And when you watch him, he certainly has improved. And so both the Harris boys are going to be something to certainly keep an eye on. Now, you get into the secondary right here. I think the secondary is going to be a little bit improved, to be honest with you. Christian Young is a guy that took a lot of hits from fans last year, mainly because when you play that Viper position, it's going to leave you exposed. And if you don't either get to the quarterback, if you don't hit the guy that you're at, or you get beat over the top, there's not a lot of people around that are going to be looking like, who was that? And it's probably going to be CY that's going to get that blame. And he looked good. He looked physical. He looked ready the part, had a nice interception. I think you're looking at a cornerback rotation or a secondary rotation where you're probably going to be looking at Christian Young, Roland Wallace, and then Traden Stukes, who played incredibly well towards the end of last season. And I think then you're looking at I think you're looking into FCN's Prysock, a guy like that who, is a 4-star player. It's difficult to hop in immediately as a secondary guy, but he certainly, I think, has some of that ability. It'll be interesting to see how he does. Now, if you were looking at Arizona football and you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to bet on Arizona football, the place to go is Bet Online Sportsbook. We know that. We've been over that. You can go there. You can find the best lines. You can find the best props. Basically, everything you want is at the Bet Online Sportsbook app. They've got you taken care of right there. Hop on there, check it. Be thankful you did. All right. Overall, a successful, I think, spring camp. People need to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm certainly not expecting this team to win a national championship. Certainly not expecting this team to win 8 or 9 games, but I am expecting this team to be able to get 4 or 5 wins. And again, that is progress. And I think at this stage in the game with Arizona football, all you want is progress, whether it's incremental, whatever the case may be. Keep moving in the right direction because, again, when you've hit the absolute bottom, which the Kevin Sumlin era was, you got to take things one game at a time and one step at a time. And so far, Jedd Fisch has done that. So kudos to Jedd Fisch. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We're going to keep talking a little bit Arizona football, but we're also going to be talking some Arizona basketball recruiting as well. Some big name kids have been off playing an AAU tournament, and Arizona's point guard of the future was playing incredibly well. We will certainly get to that. And as always, really appreciate you guys keeping it locked on Wildcats. We'll be back with you tomorrow, breaking everything down that you need to know about Arizona football, Arizona basketball. And you know what? Quite frankly, maybe we'll get to some of the other sports as well. Thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats.